Good day to you. This is the RPG Guy, aka Travis in real life, and I'm coming at you with more tabletop role-playing game tips.
TIMORUM.
So today I got 10 tips for creating items. Let's go ahead and get into tip number 1. Tip number 1 is strength. What is the strength of the weapon or item or ring or whatever? How strong is the thing? This is something that you want to keep in mind, because if you do give something to your players that is much more powerful than they can handle at the beginning of a game or campaign, you've kind of blown it. Now, there are ways that you can kind of take it away, but if you do that, you're going to run into all kinds of other issues. So, be very aware of the strength of the, we'll call it an item, that your players will be getting, or perhaps finding, or perhaps knowing about. Next tip is the rarity of that item. Now, what drives rarity? Well, that is the quantity of said thing in the world. So if you have something that there are millions of in the world, then heck, that is quite very common. Go ahead, give it to your players whenever you freaking want. It's probably an apple. Next tip is the technology. What is the technology level, if you will, of the item? Can anybody just walk up and use this item? And I don't just mean this in the sense that it's just high-tech technology, but maybe it's some sort of magical technology that everybody doesn't know about. Maybe it has some sort of power word or secret word, or maybe it's powered by a thought or a willpower, if you will. With that said, let's go ahead and get into the next tip, which is magic. We all love our +5 smiting bastard sword of doom. Consider the type of magic that it is. Maybe it's based off of runes. Maybe it's based off of whatever. But just keep in mind, how does that magic work? It kind of goes into technology. The way I've always understood magic is that magic is very chaotic in nature. So people have figured out by their own intelligence and wisdom that how to use the stuff, but they still don't quite understand it. Kind of like love. And love is magical. The next tip is the history of the item. Try giving the item some sort of history involved. Kind of like in the way that Tolkien made some of the elvish blades, and they had names that all kinds of races knew about these weapons. Try doing that to your own weapons. Maybe give a history to a weapon that's actually not very good, but maybe it has some sort of social standing when you wield it because, hey, maybe the president used to have that ring. And that does make it a bit more valuable than just a regular golden ring. Next tip is the value. Now, of course, value does kind of go into the rarity, blah, 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 yada, yada. What I'm talking about, and now the thing is, not everybody knows that something is very rare. We're talking about people knowing that this staff is worth 1,000,000 gold. Now, if you know that, you have quite a bit of bargaining power with anything. So just consider the value of that item, especially when you're creating an item for beginners. Make sure it's not too valuable, but make sure that you give them something that does have some sort of value. And the reason for this is also because, well, sometimes you outgrow weapons and you want to get rid of it. Next is the availability of this item. Now, what I mean by this is not that it's rare, but more of its secure nature. If, let's say, there was some sort of item in a house of nobility, that's not fully available to anybody. Next tip is the social meaning. Now, I kind of dabbled into this before, but if you wear a ring, obviously this has a social meaning to it. This means I'm taken. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I'm taken. This is different from history. This is if somebody looks at it, they know, hey, that guy's got a stinking iPod. Yes, it's valuable, but that also means that they like Mac products. And the last tip is encumbrance. This isn't a tip as much of it's something that you need to be aware of. Now, if your games do deal a lot with encumbrance values and quantitative formulaic values of how many arrows that you have in Satchel 42, encumbrance has the ability to make games very crunchy, very rules and data driven. When things are like that, there is a bit of where it starts taking away from role-playing aspect, and now all of a sudden it's more about bookkeeping. Now, if that's what your players enjoy, if that's what you and your players enjoy, then freaking have at it. Let's go to Satchel 42 of how many arrows you got. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of this video, and I want to say thank you very much for watching it. If you do have a moment, please click subscribe right here. Leave us a comment about how you do items, if you create any items like that. If this and if you're not a GM, if you're a player, what type of items do you enjoy getting? And as usual, get your geek on.